Hi guys, and welcome to my review of It from 2017. And yeah, so I had already reviewed recently the 1990 miniseries with Tim Curry. You can check that out on my channel here. And I had said in that one where I had although I enjoy that mini series overall, I do have a lot of charm for it. There was always a part of me that always kind of, having read the Stephen King novel, there was always a part of me that wanted a version that was closer to that, or at least a version that had captured that more. I kind of hesitate to use the term mean-spirited Pennywise, but Pennywise, because that kind of like almost implies that Tim Curry version wasn't. And I mean, I think in many people's, in some people's ideas, they actually would argue that Tim Curry's Pennywise is scarier, and I heard people kind of say that the Pennywise you get in this version would kind of just kill you, whereas Tim Curry iteration of the character would just kind of do some crazy stuff to you before, and that kind of like true, but there was always a part of me that longed for a strong, more closer adaptation that captured the spirit of the novel, and I think that this one pretty much nails it. This one does seem to be more faithful to the book, at least in terms of spirit, in terms of tone, in terms of Bill Skarsgård portrayal of Pennywise is closer to the one we get in the book. There's no kind of wisecracking here, or clowning around, no pun intended. This is just a very nihilistic, mean-spirited Pennywise. And yeah, so I mean, there are some differences here to the book. So this opens up having moved the action from the 1950s, which is in the book and also in the 1990 miniseries, and it moves it onto the 1980s, which completely makes sense. Okay, so we have because we're be watching this adaptation obviously in 2017, so it kind of makes sense to kind of update it to the 80s. Also, there's that trend of the 1980s, so it wants to capitalize on that. We have the kid from Stranger Things playing Richie here. So it all just kind of like, and it very much capitalizes on all of the popularity of all of that, I think. This, in fact, if I'm going to say anything that encapsulates the aesthetic of it does have a very Stranger Things kind of vibe to it. And yeah, so like I said, I appreciated all of that. But one of the real standouts that I appreciated most about it is actually how the portrayal of the kids are in this, and how the Losers Club are portrayed in here, because in the 1990 miniseries there was very much kind of quite a squeaky clean kind of portrayal with the kids, whereas here it's, you get one that's actually much more true and comes across as much more natural, where these kids, they do have potty mouths, they're not kind of squeaky clean, but you also kind of get the idea that they're just kids, and they're kind of they're still very much the protagonists of this story. And in particular, with talking about the kids, I have to give a shout out to Richie in this, whose every single line he gets in this is just totally golden. Like I said, it totally rings true as well. It doesn't feel forced, because it feels like it always will get a chuckle out of you, because it always kind of represents the kid that you knew you went to school with here. There's always that kid who is just like this guy, who is kind of like this sort of Jay from the In-Betweeners type character. But there is always that. So that was like a real treat. You get some of this with the Pennywise playing on the fears here, and when they do that, there's a much more darkness to it. You have all of the scenes where Pennywise is playing on their fears were really effective. All apart from one, I felt, where there was one who I believe it was when where Pennywise is playing on the fears of Stan, I believe it is, which just kind of didn't quite work for me, because it felt when it played out, it actually reminded me of a Crooked Man from The Conjuring 2. And this brings me onto like one of the negatives I kind of have, which is that it's not so much of a negative that it detracts from my enjoyment of it in any way. But I do kind of wish that they had used a bit more practical effects in this one, and not used so much kind of CGI in this. That's the only real kind of nitpick that I do have in this. Another factor here is when we have the film opening up with a shocking but iconic scene of Georgie and the sailboat and Pennywise down in the sewer. This is just a much more hard hitting, but the way that they play the Billy's guilt of Georgie in this film just plays out much more effectively, I feel, because in the 1990 miniseries, it was pretty much like confirmed where they had Georgie's body, and it was just like confirmed he was dead. Whereas in this adaptation, he's just missing, and I think that plays in and serves the story actually much better, where basically Billy is going on this kind of like a mystery to kind of find out what's kind of happened to Georgie, and also it kind of leans very much into that guilt thing. And I think when Pennywise is trying to lure Billy in by taking the form of Georgie, I think it just leans into that much better. So all of that kind of stuff that I really appreciated. So yeah, overall, guys, I really enjoyed this, and I was like so thankful that we finally got this adaptation. It felt like for once we were getting an adaptation that we actually needed as well, because like I said, as much as I have a love for the 1990 miniseries, I also acknowledge that miniseries is kind of flawed as anything. So I was so thankful that we got this adaptation, which is just much more encompasses the spirit of a book for me, and much closer to the It film that I wanted to see. So yeah, that pretty much set up. So yeah, thank you guys for taking the time to watch this video. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more, don't forget to ring a bell for notifications. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Feel free to let me know down in the comment section about what your thoughts of the 2017 It were, and what your experience with the It franchises? Have you seen the 1990 miniseries? You know, all of that kind of stuff. Which ones do you prefer? All of that fun stuff. Let me know down in the comment section. As I said, I've already reviewed the 1990 miniseries. I'll be reviewing It Chapter 2 in here, and I'll bring us into this next week, where I'll finally be getting around to watching It Welcome to Derry, and I'll be reviewing episodes 1 and 2 then. So yeah, all of that stuff coming your way, so be sure to keep tuned into this channel to see those. So yeah, thank you guys again for taking the time to watch this video, and until next time, you guys take care of yourselves.